Well, this was a very important step for the German and for the French population, not only for the government, and it was an important step for the unification of Europe, for the deeper unification of Europe, because Germany and France were the two largest states in the EU, and they had a special importance and a special responsibility. They had a responsibility because for centuries they were enemies, and this was the first sign that there is a new Europe coming. And if you look back to the year 1963, it was the time of Cold War. The Berlin Wall was built 2 years before. We had the division not only of Germany but also of Europe. There was a western part of Europe and an eastern part of Europe. The eastern part influenced by the Soviet Union. And at that time, Germany and France gave an example how to manage future. That means by friendship, by cooperation, by building Europe, a free Europe, a united Europe, and this was the most important step at that time. And you can find a direct line from this event in 1963 to the fall of the Berlin Wall, of the division of Europe, and to the accession of Slovakia and other Middle East European states in 2004.
Yes, I think it was, of course, basically a bilateral agreement, but for two countries who had a vision on what Europe should look like. So this bilateral agreement was a kind of cornerstone for the future of European construction and how the European Union actually built up on that friendship, because it was essential to make this union enduring. And in that way, I think that it was a prefiguration of what Europe should look like when it would be united. Of course, I think that at that time nobody was thinking that so quickly the Berlin Wall would fall, but I'm sure that it was also in the vision of General de Gaulle and Bundeskanzler Adenauer. And just to symbolically mark that, it happens that today is the 16th of April, and it's the anniversary of the Athens Treaty, by which Slovakia and other Eastern Europe EU countries joined the European Union. So it's also a way of celebrating that anniversary. I think it's, of course, very symbolic in a way, because it's formal meetings, but it's also a way of sharing together common issues and try to find common solutions to our daily problems as governments. And it also creates personal relationship between political people, ministers, and head states and governments, and this personal relationship builds confidence. And of course, it doesn't mean that we have to agree on everything every day, because that's not how life is in real life, actually. But it's I think a very efficient way to build up confidence, mutual knowledge, and share views in order to solve concrete, real problems for our citizens. And I think this institutional model actually has had effects, since I understand that today Slovakia is also organizing joint ministerial meetings with its neighbors, with Poland, with the Czech Republic, of course. And I think we might have inspired other European countries in deepening and improving these day-to-day bilateral relationship.
as always, I fully agree with my French colleague, and it was indeed confidence building between our two states, and you have no other example in this dance of information which is flowing from one side to the other side. Cooperation in all fields, economic, traffic, in military cooperation. And this is really important. This is confidence building at its best. And it's also an example for other states to follow, because we gave an example to a very close cooperation between our governments, and this is independent from any change of government. So the German-French cooperation over all the decades, if you look from Willy Brandt to Helmut Schmidt, Giscard d'Estaing, from Helmut Kohl, Mitterrand, Schröder, Chirac, and now Merkel, Sarkozy, and later now Hollande, you find a very deep cooperation. Okay, they don't agree in every point, but on the general line they know about their responsibility to give new move to the European cooperation and reunification. That is, I think, one of the most important steps, to do it by bilateral cooperation of the cabinets and of the ministers.
It's not only at the political level, governments and head of states and governments, but also at the civil servants level, that we have permanent instruction as soon as we've been appointed at responsibility position in civil service, to immediately meet with our German counterparts, so that also between the civil services this confidence and this mutual knowledge is built and maintained.
It was not difficult. We gave a good example for other states to do it with their neighbors. I don't want to mention any, but you know what I mean. Because to look into history with a common sense of history and to find a common way how to manage the view on history, that is the first important step to go to the future. Because if you don't look what you have done in the past, you cannot manage the future. And so it was a decisive step to do this with the Historic Commission, to make a common course book, German-French, and we did it with Poland, because we had for a long time a very problematically relationship with Poland over all the centuries. And this was a story of success, but with Poland we could only manage after the change of 89. And now we have very good relations with Poland. We have the Weimar Triangle, together with France and Poland. And okay, Poland is member of this triangle because Poland is a little bit larger than Slovakia and Czech Republic and Hungary, and so we have a good cooperation also in this frame, and we will continue to build Europe in this triangle.
Yes, it's I think extremely important and substantially to have a common understanding of our past, of our history, and to explain it and teach it to our children, so that we do not reproduce in the future the errors that we made in the past. And I think that was not only symbolically but also in trying to root as deeply as possible this common understanding of what our values, our goals were within the European Union, but as two countries who had been fighting for so long, it was really substantially important and long-lasting effects, since we hope that the children and their children will also share this vision. Even though I guess that for many of our children or kids that are now at school, it is something like so natural that France and Germany our friends, and also because of this education process and the French-German youth office and all the efforts that were made to bring the people together and share this common vision.
In Germany we have maybe a little bit another view because France is more west. We cannot change it, it's the geographical situation. But for Germany, the Mid-East area was always an area which was a little bit German influenced by German settlers, for example. In Slovakia you have the Carpathian Germans, in Hungary you have a large German minority, same in Poland, and this was some special responsibility to make, first of all, after the change of 89 and 90, the development to integrate these states into the European Union. It was a promise given by Helmut Kohl at that time, because all these states helped us a lot to manage the German reunification. And to integrate these states into the European Union, or at that time European Community, was the first step of European politics in this time. And I mentioned already, Poland is the largest state of these four Visegrad states, and so we had a special relationship with Poland, and we have it still, but also with all other Mid-East states, Mid-East European states. We have good relations, especially with Slovakia, and this is important for the cooperation in Europe to manage all the crises we have.
As Axel just said, history and geography are what they are. I mean, there's been some long-lasting and beneficial influence of Germany, or Germans in general, because Germany is quite recent creation, but of German culture and German knowledge in this part of Europe, which is less the case for France. I think that's also why Germany has special responsibility in this area. But there's been also a strong will from President Hollande to actually rebuild and reinforce French relationship with these countries and to develop these relationship after some years when Central Europe was considered as a less important group of partners in the European debate, and it was actually shown in the different meetings that our leaders had in the past year now. They met already 3 times with the high level. We expect a high level visit by the end of this year, and I think that it's a deliberate effort in order to show more interest and to share more discussions with our Central European partners. That's been the case in Poland, it's been the case with Slovakia. For different reasons, it's a little bit less the case with the Czech Republic and with Hungary, but I'm sure that when situation evolves in a positive way, these discussions will also deepen with these countries.
We fully agree in all important questions of European politics, and it's for us really important to have a common view on this at this scene. But I know it's a question of growth in Europe, which is the most important question also for the French government: how to make growth, how to produce growth. And if you look to the figures we have worldwide, growth is only outside of Europe. China is growth, India is growth, Brasilia, South Africa, there you find growth. But what is about Europe? Europe is a little bit developing at the same place now, and we have to come forward. And this is a question for every member state, how to manage it to make the state fit for growth. And to manage the debt crisis is self-evident, because if we do not solve the debt crisis, this would be the end of Europe and of European development. So we must focus on the question how to make growth. And every state has its own responsibility and its own view on this question, but in the end I think there is a common willing to manage this problem and to manage this crisis. And so I'm very confident that France will be on the same road as Germany, and Germany on the same road as France.
We should clearly remember that everything started with the financial crisis that revealed a debt crisis. But the initial problem was financial crisis and financial deregulation that led to some incredible excesses in the financial world that had very strong consequences on banks, and from banks which were connected with governments, we had this debt crisis revealed, and euro zone crisis for some countries, and that's why it's so important that this banking union is put in place as soon as possible to cut the connection between banks and the governments and states. But you mentioned this smallest common denominator, but it's incredible what we managed to achieve since the beginning of the crisis. In 4 years, so many very important things happened. We found agreement on such important, substantial issues for the management of the European Union and the Eurozone. And I think that was not possible without, first of all, a French-German friendship. That is not only friendship, I mean, a very deep and strong will to find solutions as quickly as possible within the existing institutions and decision-making processes, but finding common solutions to solve the problem, which has been extremely, extremely bad. And at some point, we were not sure to find the right answers, and we were close to falling into a black hole, actually, all of us. We managed to find the right answers and the right solutions, and I think we are now on the right path to go out of this crisis. We are debating on what is the best way to do to keep this budget discipline, but at the same time not to kill any chance of growth, and actually to die healthy in a way. So we want to find this right path, and we are discussing it. We are discussing it with the Commission and other important countries. Just to add up on one of your question regarding the Eurozone and the responsibility of the members of the Eurozone, it is clear that when you belong to such a common currency union, you make your own decisions. Maybe you can inform your partners of what's happening, because it has consequences on their own economy. But these decisions, it's your decisions. You cannot share with other people who have not responsibilities, and the budget consequences that it has on the Eurozone. So it's also very important to stress that fact, even though, of course, we have to inform partners.
Well, we do it everywhere. And we have our instructions, and we are happy to have this conference here in Bratislava, but there will be also conferences in all other states. And this shows you really the deep cooperation between our two embassies worldwide. And concerning the question of federal state, yes, we are a federal state. And if you look to German history, the time when Germany was a federal state was always a good time. It was no good time if we were a central state. And so we enjoyed to have 16 German Länder. And these 16 German Länder also cooperate with French regions. For example, the Free State of Thuringia has a cooperation with Picardy in France and Malopolska in Poland. So they make the triangle on the regional level. And there are a lot of cities in our states who have triangle relations between Polish, French, German cities. And it's something that is going deep in our relations, that brings aspects also for the people to see how cooperation works with the other partner. Okay, now in the time of internet, we don't have so many exchanges on a real basis. Use exchange was one of the fundaments of the German-French friendship in the 1960s. Use exchange because it was a time where many people, a lot of people didn't have the money to pay a visit or a tourist visit in another country. And so this was deepening the German and French friendship, and I saw it in my own home village. We had a cooperation with Castelnau-Médoc, a wonderful wine region near Bordeaux, and so I'm still a friend of Bordeaux wine. And the conference, okay, I mentioned already, will bring this German-French friendship to the Slovakian public. It's a public conference, and we hope that the media will present it to the population, and we hope for a good result.
Europe is an ongoing project. It took 50 years, 60 years now to reach the point we've reached now. It will take also a very long time to continue to mature and evolve in probably, and I hope, more integrated union. Talking about, federation, state, unified state, federation of sovereign states, it's, language. I think we've been learning step by step how far we could go at a particular moment. At this point of European history, we have to consolidate with what we've achieved, and which is absolutely enormous. I mean, people just assume that it's here, but it is an enormous effort and probably a unique endeavor in human history, political and economic history ever. So these achievements are extremely important. They've been creating extremely positive effects for the population, for our common prosperity, and we have to adapt to what we've reached now, and we feel that at the moment people don't want to discuss any further about union, about integration, about European state, but that's clearly the underlying project. That's clearly the vision, and it will take the time it will take. But I'm sure that all European countries and people will understand that we have to go further if we want to remain a important entity in the world, and an entity that has its says in global crisis, in development, in climate change, all these fundamental issues that we will have to face in the coming 50 or 100 years. And if Europe doesn't continue integrating, it will disappear as a global actor, and that's not what we want. It's just way and the time we will need to go further, but I'm sure we will.
It's always time for consolidating in all the phases of the European Union, but the European Union was always open for states who agree with the principles of this union and who are willing to come to this union. It's not so easy now to manage 27 member states, but we have Croatia in the next months, a couple of months. Croatia will come, and there will be other states who are coming to Europe because it's still attractive to be a member of the European Union, and that is the message we send to the whole world and here in Bratislava.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.